My in-laws laughed at my proposal ring and called me cheap, so I returned the ring and proposed to her sister instead, and everyone cheered. I thought proposing to the woman I loved would be the happiest moment of my life. For months, I'd been saving every extra penny from my job at the firm, skipping nights out, brewing coffee at home, living frugally just to buy the ring I thought would make her heart melt. It wasn't flashy or extravagant, but it was ours, a simple gold band with a small clear diamond something that meant love over luxury, sincerity over show. The restaurant I picked that night was dimly lit, warm, filled with the faint sound of jazz and clinking glasses. I remember my palms sweating as I reached into my jacket pocket, the velvet box feeling heavier than it should have. Lena looked stunning in her navy dress, her smile wide and bright as the candles flickered against her face. When I dropped to one knee, the world seemed to slow down. My heart was pounding so loudly it drowned out every thought. She gasped her hand over her mouth. I swear, for a second, I saw pure emotion in her eyes. I asked the question I'd been rehearsing in my head for weeks, but before she could even answer, a laugh broke the silence. Her mother's voice cut through the moment like glass. "Oh, sweetheart, is that the ring?" Her father leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Guess we should have warned you our daughter's not a discount bride." The words hit me like a slap I didn't see coming. Even Lena's sister, Clara, let out a soft, awkward chuckle before looking away. Lena froze, half smiling, half embarrassed. I tried to laugh it off, pretending it didn't sting, but the laughter kept echoing in my head long after the moment passed. That night, I thought I was starting forever. Instead, I was just beginning the slow death of something I thought was love. The drive home that night felt like an open wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Lena sat in silence beside me, scrolling through her phone as if pretending nothing had happened could erase what I'd just endured. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, every streetlight flashing like a reminder of their laughter, cruel, unforgettable. When I finally broke the silence, my voice came out quieter than I meant it to. "Did you really think it was funny?" She sighed. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. You know how my parents are, they joke about everything," I said, turning to her at a red light. "They humiliated me, Lena, in front of you, in front of everyone." She rolled her eyes, looking out the window. "You're overreacting. It was just a ring, babe. You're being sensitive again." That word, sensitive, landed like a hammer. I'd heard it before. Every time I tried to express pain or disappointment, it was always me being too emotional, too serious. When I dropped her off, she gave me a perfunctory kiss on the cheek and said, "I'll call you tomorrow." No apology, no remorse. Just casual dismissal, as if love could survive on convenience alone. Back in my apartment, I sat on the couch, the small velvet box open in front of me. The ring caught the dim light, reflecting back everything I didn't want to see: my effort, my hope, my humiliation. I could still hear her mother's voice, that icy laugh that stripped me of my dignity. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "They didn't mean it, babe. You're just being sensitive." I stared at the message until my chest felt hollow. For the first time, I wondered if maybe love wasn't blind, maybe it was just willfully ignorant. And that night, I realized I'd been choosing blindness for far too long. The next few days felt like walking on cracked glass. Every conversation with Lena was sharp, fragile, ready to break. She acted as if nothing had happened, posting smiling pictures of us on her Instagram with captions like, "My forever person." I kept wondering if that forever included pretending her family's cruelty didn't happen. One evening, I stopped by her apartment. She was on the phone, pacing by the window, her voice low. I heard her mother's name before I heard the words that shattered me. "Mom, please, it's not about the ring. He's just not used to our lifestyle yet." That single sentence hit harder than all the laughter combined. Not used to our lifestyle. Like I was some stray dog learning how to sit at their table. When she hung up, I tried to keep my voice steady. "So that's how you talk about me when I'm not around." She flinched. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Lena? Because from where I stand, you're embarrassed by me." She crossed her arms. I don't want to keep fighting about this. Maybe we rushed things." The air went still. I could feel my chest tighten. Rushed things. "I've been saving for months to build a future with you, and now it's too soon?" She looked away. "Maybe I need some time to think." That was her way of ending it without saying the words. I didn't argue. I just nodded, walked out, and when I got home, I placed the ring back in its box. The next morning, I returned it to the jeweler, feeling more relief than regret. Hours later, a notification popped up, one unread message from Clara. "You didn't deserve that." For the first time in weeks, I felt something unexpected, not hope, but understanding. Someone had finally seen what Lena refused to. Clara's message replayed in my head all night. "You didn't deserve that." Just 5 words, but they landed with the weight of everything I'd been holding in. I didn't know what to say back, so I just replied, "Thank you." The next evening, she texted again, "Can we grab a coffee sometime? I owe you an apology for what my family did." I hesitated. She was Lena's sister, after all, the last person I should be seeing. But something about her tone felt different, genuine. So, against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. She waved when I walked in, her expression soft, nothing like the smug grin I remembered from that dinner. "I didn't know they'd take it that far," she said, stirring her coffee nervously. "Mom and Dad think money makes people better. It doesn't, it just makes them crueler." I shrugged, forcing a small smile. "Guess I should have known I didn't fit in." She shook her head. "No, you didn't fit them. There's a difference." Her words lingered. We talked for hours about her strained relationship with her parents, about how she'd once broken off an engagement because they called her fiancés unworthy for the first time in weeks. I felt like I wasn't being judged, just heard. When I walked her to her car, she said softly, "I hope you don't hate us all because of them." I looked at her, the streetlight reflecting in her eyes. "No, just most of you." She laughed, a real warm laugh. It felt human. I told myself it was just closure to people making peace with the wreckage. But deep down, I knew something dangerous had begun, something I wasn't ready to name yet. A week later, Lena called me out of the blue. Her voice was strangely calm to calm. "Hey, can we talk?" We met at the same cafe where I'd sat with Clara just days earlier. She showed up late, dressed perfectly, as if for a business meeting, not a breakup. She sat across from me, folded her hands, and said, "I think it's best if we end things now, before we hurt each other more." I just stared at her, waiting for a flicker of emotion. Nothing. Not even regret. She sighed when I didn't respond. "You're a good guy, but I need someone who fits my life. My parents were right, we want different things." Different things. That phrase echoed in my head like a slow bleed. I could almost hear her father laughing again, her mother's voice asking if the ring was real. I swallowed hard. "You know, I thought love meant finding someone to build with. Turns out, you were just looking for someone already built." Her expression flickered for a moment, maybe pity. Then it was gone. "I hope there are no hard feelings," she said as she stood up. "Oh, and do you still have the receipt for the ring?" "It's just closure for me, I guess." Closure. That was her word for erasing everything we'd shared. I handed her the folded receipt I'd been carrying in my wallet. Not out of sentiment, but as proof to myself that I was done. "Here, consider it a refund for wasted time." She didn't reply, just walked away, heels clicking like punctuation marks to the end of a hollow sentence. That night, as I scrolled through my phone, a new message popped up. Clara again. "I heard about Lena. You okay?" I wasn't, but somehow her words made it feel like maybe I could be Dot after that breakup. Clara became my only thread of connection to a world I was trying to forget. It started innocently checking and trading memes, long late-night talks about life, work, and family expectations. But somewhere between sympathy and shared loneliness, the tone shifted. One night, after weeks of talking, she admitted something that made the air go still. "You know," she said quietly, "I always thought you were too good for my sister." I laughed it off, but my pulse spiked. "That's a dangerous thing to say." "I mean it," she said, eyes steady on mine. "You wanted real love. She wanted a lifestyle. They never understood that." Her honesty cut through something I didn't realize I'd been holding back, or maybe, or just grief that someone finally saw me for who I was. We kept meeting after work, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for long drives with no destination. I told myself it was harmless, but the truth was, I looked forward to her messages more than I ever looked forward to Lena's calls. Then, one night, sitting in my car outside her apartment, she said the thing that changed everything. "I think I'm falling for you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The logical part of me screamed that it was wrong, messy, dangerous. But the part of me that had been starved for kindness, it didn't care. I didn't kiss her that night. I just held her hand, and in that small act, the guilt and warmth tangled together until I couldn't tell them apart. We promised to keep things quiet, just between us for now, but secrets, especially in families like hers, have a way of slipping through cracks. You didn't even know existed, and ours was about to explode. It didn't take long for the secret to break. One Sunday morning, my phone buzzed, non-stop calls, messages. All from Lena. I ignored them at first, but then Clara called, her voice trembling. They know. Apparently, a cousin had seen us together at a small art fair downtown, hands intertwined, smiling like to people who had forgotten the world was watching. Within hours, her family chat group was on fire. Screenshots, accusations, outrage. That evening, Lena showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes were wild, her tone venomous. You couldn't even wait a month before screwing my sister. Watch your mouth, I said, trying to stay calm. It's not what you think. She laughed cold, sharp. Oh, please. You think you're some tragic hero? You're just pathetic. Using Clara to get revenge on me. Before I could respond, Clara arrived. She must have followed Lena enough. She shouted, "This isn't revenge. I love him." The room fell silent. Even Lena froze. You what? Clara stepped closer to me, her voice steady but her hands shaking. He treated me better in months than anyone in this family ever has. Maybe you hate him because he reminds you of everything real you'll never have. Lena's face went pale. You've lost it, she whispered. Both of you, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. Clara turned to me, tears brimming in her eyes. I just ended my relationship with my entire family, didn't I? I wanted to tell her no, that everything would calm down, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of the storm. That night, the internet found out too. Someone had leaked screenshots of our messages. The family drama wasn't just personal anymore, it was public. Overnight, everything collapsed. The leaked screenshots spread like wildfire through mutual friends, relatives, even coworkers. People I barely knew were sending me messages, some calling me a homewrecker, others pretending to pity me. Clara's parents went nuclear, accusing me of destroying their family for attention. Clara tried to stay strong, but I could see the toll it was taking. Her mother had blocked her number. Her father told her to never show her face at family events again, and Lena was posting cryptic quotes about betrayal and snakes. Every corner of social media felt poisoned with our names. We moved in together, thinking distance would quiet the noise. But silence can be cruel too. The judgment didn't stop. It just got quieter, heavier. Clara cried at night when she thought I was asleep. Once I heard her whisper, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I did ruin everything." I couldn't stand it. "Don't say that," I told her, pulling her close. "You didn't ruin anything. They did. They turned love into a competition." But the words felt hollow even as I said them. The guilt ate at me. I replayed everything, every text, every choice, and wondered if I had doomed the one person who truly believed in me. Our fights grew sharper. Little things, forgotten groceries, unanswered texts, became explosions. She accused me of regretting her. I accused her of listening to her parents in her head. We both cried, then fell asleep holding each other like people clinging to wreckage after a shipwreck. That was our lowest point. To people who loved each other, surrounded by the echo of everyone else's hate. For the first time, I considered walking away, not because I stopped loving her, but because I didn't know if love was strong enough to survive the noise. Rock bottom has a strange way of forcing clarity. One morning, after another sleepless night, I looked at Clara's swollen hair, messy, wearing one of my old shirts, and realized I couldn't let our story end in shame. I had lost too much already, but I still had one thing left: the ability to rebuild. I'd always dreamed of starting a small jewelry business, something meaningful, handcrafted, affordable. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same kind of ring that once got me mocked might now be my redemption. I pulled out my old sketches, dusted off the tools I'd abandoned years ago, and started designing again. "You're really doing this?" I nodded. "I'm tired of being the punchline. If they're going to talk about us, they might as well talk about something worth hearing." She smiled, soft, proud. Then let's give them something to see. We poured everything into it late nights, borrowed savings, shared dreams. The first design I finished was a simple ring engraved with one word: enough. It was my message to everyone who'd ever called me less than. A few months later, I launched the small brand online. I didn't expect much, maybe a few pity clicks from friends. But then, one viral tweet changed everything. A man who was mocked for his cheap proposal ring now handcrafts jewelry that symbolizes real love. Orders exploded. Articles followed. Even people who didn't know our story connected with the message. For the first time in a long time. The laughter I heard wasn't mocking. It was admiration. But success has a way of attracting old ghosts. Because not long after, a familiar number appeared on my phone. It was Lena's father. When Lena's father called, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. His voice was uncharacteristically polite, rehearsed. I saw your jewelry thing. Impressive work, son. You've come a long way, son. The word made my jaw tighten. I wanted to hang up, but he kept talking. You know, Clara's birthday's coming up. Maybe we can all sit down. Clear the air. Clear the air. Translation: fix their image now that the internet had turned against them. I told him I'd think about it, and I did, for about 10 seconds. Then I deleted his number. A week later. I planned something entirely different. On the anniversary of my first failed proposal, I invited a few close friends and Clara's remaining relatives to a small rooftop event under warm string lights. Clara thought it was just a celebration for the business milestone. She didn't know I had the enough ring in my pocket, the one I'd made myself, forged from the same metal as the one her family had mocked, as the night settled and the city lights shimmered below us. I took her hand. I didn't get to do this right the first time, I said softly. But this time, I'm not asking anyone for permission. Her eyes filled instantly. You're really doing this here? I smiled. Right where everything fell apart last time. When I knelt down, the crowd went silent. And as I slipped the handcrafted ring onto her finger, the guests erupted into cheers, not for wealth or spectacle, but for love that survived the fire. Someone filmed it. The clip went viral overnight. The man who was mocked for his cheap ring forged his own, and she said, yes, the world cheered for us. But I knew the people who'd once laughed weren't cheering out of joy. They were watching in shame. Success has a funny way of rewriting people's memories. Just 2 weeks after our engagement, video went viral. Clara's parents reached out again, this time through a long, polite email full of hollow praise and self-justification. We've been reflecting, her mother wrote. Families fight, but love always finds a way. We'd love to meet and congratulate you both. It was almost comical. The same people who had laughed in my face now wanted to pose for photos beside the self-made man. Clara read the message aloud, her voice trembling between anger and disbelief. They didn't even say sorry, she muttered. They just want to look good again. Her father followed up with a phone call. I answered, just to hear it for myself. We might have been harsh before, he said, but we're proud of how far you've come. Maybe we misjudged you. I could hear the subtext clearly. Now that you're successful, you finally meet our standards. I didn't respond right away. Clara stood beside me, watching, waiting. Finally, I said, you didn't misjudge me. You just never cared to look. And I hung up. A few days later, they showed up uninvited at one of our pop-up events. Cameras flashed as they approached us, pretending to smile, acting like nothing had happened. But Clara wasn't having it. In front of everyone, she looked them dead in the eye and said, you laughed when he offered love. Now you want to celebrate when he offers success. You don't get to rewrite that story. The silence that followed was heavy, an audience of strangers. Watching a family fracture in real time, her parents left without a word. And for the first time, Clara looked genuinely free. But freedom has a strange sweetness. It tastes a lot like closure. Months passed, and life found its rhythm again. Orders kept pouring in, interviews followed, and suddenly, my little workshop had become a full-fledged brand. But the truth is, I didn't care about fame or money. I cared about meaning, about turning every ounce of humiliation into something people could hold in their hands. I named the company Enough, the same word engraved on that first ring. Every piece we made carried the same message. Love doesn't need to prove its worth, it just needs to be. One morning, a popular magazine ran a feature titled "The Man Who Redefined Engagement Rings." I flipped through the glossy pages and froze. There it was, picture of Clara's hand wearing the ring, shining under soft light, and below it, a quote they'd chosen from my interview. They laughed at the ring, but that ring built the life they said I didn't deserve. Clara found me sitting quietly, staring at the article. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled. "Yeah, just thinking about how everything came full circle. We had a small wedding, no grand hall, no designer suits, no family drama. Just us, a few close friends, and the promise that what we built was real." When she walked toward me down that narrow aisle, barefoot on the grass, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. After the ceremony, Clara slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "They don't deserve to know how happy we are." I nodded. "Let them wonder." That night, as we danced under fairy lights and laughed or not, mockery filled the air. I looked at the ring glinting on her finger and thought, they tried to define my worth by what I could buy, but in the end, I became priceless.